Oh boy, this was a long time coming, wasn't it? Hey everybody, it is finally time for me, that Jacob guy from that straw hat, to talk about Xenoblade Chronicles 3. The fourth installment in the Xenoblade Chronicles series. We all count X. We all count it. It came out just about 4 months ago now? July, August, it came out at the end of July. Whatever. It came out a while ago, and I have just beaten it a couple days ago. I made it to credits. It took me a while, but I'm finally here. I finally finished it, and I'm finally here to blather on about it for an hour. Please sit down and buckle up, because I feel like this is going to be a long one, okay? So for those who don't know, I'm a pretty big fan of the Xenoblade Chronicles franchise. At first, I was really uninterested, but then I played it, fell in love with it. I love Xenoblade 1 and 2, only played a little bit of X. I already did a discussion video kind of going over those three games, so you can check that out if you wish. And I was super excited for the third game. But I could not even I could predict, not even as big of a fan of the series as I was, and how much I was looking forward to this game. I couldn't predict just what I was in for with Xenoblade Chronicles 3. So let's get right into it. So the plot this time around is a lot darker than 2. 2 was very much a much more lighthearted game. 3 is a bit on the war is hell side. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 takes place on the continent or the world or the planet of Ionios, where there are two different countries, essentially, two kingdoms, Keves and Agnes, who are in this perpetual war that has been going on for generations upon generations. Just a struggle over God knows what. A struggle over land, a struggle over just killing people. And it's been going on for a long time with no sign of stopping. The participants in this war are a race of humans who live for 10 years. They're essentially built and bred for the purpose of killing and war. They are referred to as humans, all of them, even the ones with non-human traits, which I will get into. They're essentially born from pods around what a normal human would be about 10 years old. So they're born when they're 10, they live for 10 years, so they either make it to 10 years old, and they die, or they are killed in battle. And that's about when they're roughly 20 years old for a regular human. Early in the game, you meet you meet 4 members of each army. You have 4 Kebesi soldiers, 3 humans, 1 Napon, and 4 Agnian soldiers, 3 humans, 1 Napon. The 8 of them converge on one location by coincidence, and they have a scuffle and all of that. But when they're there, they meet this wrinkly gentleman. Of course, in a world where everyone dies when they're 20, they're not used to seeing what we consider to be an old guy, you know? So they're just curious about this older gentleman who appears to be just totally neutral in what's going on. This camp has a whole bunch of things that they're not used to seeing. So he introduces himself as Guernica Vandam, but then they're attacked by this strange toothed monster that ends up killing Vandam, but not before he uses some device which kind of grants these 8, well, the 6, the Napon don't actually get any powers, sadly, who grants the 6 humans some strange powers. And Guernica pretty much says, like, hey, it's your job to fucking save the world. Go to this big-ass sword that you see in the distance, and go there. You'll know what to do when you get there. Work together. You can free this world from its eternal war before Vandam passes away. And from there, it's kind of an odd couple story where it takes some time for these warring factions to get along with each other, but of course they do in the end. They've already been kind of gaining some free speech, some free thought rather, on the war, and questioning what the point of all of this is. So with these powers, which allow them to fuse into large monster creatures themselves, they kind of need to set aside their differences for the greater good of the entirety of Ionios. And from there, you set off into this world. The story's premise is really dark. Of course, there's plenty of moments of levity, just like any Xenoblade game has, but there's a lot of darkness throughout this story, and I've heard a lot of people compare this story to Nier Automata, which I have played recently. And yeah, there is some similarities. Just these, where you play as just pawns in what appear to be a pointless, endless war that is specifically designed to never end. And there's this one area in the game later which has a song that basically sounds like a Nier Automata song. It's really good. Seeing these 6 people who have so much beef with each other just because they're told to end up uniting and working together it's a nice little story there. It's nice to see them eventually get along. It happens pretty quickly because, I mean, with a game this big, you probably don't want them bickering for too long. But still, seeing it happen feels nice, especially early on. There's a scene very early when they start working together where they just kind of, they go around the class and introduce themselves like, hello, I'm British, and then I'm also British, and I'm not British. they just like, it's like show and tell. They say their names, they say what they like and what they don't like, and a few of them are like, no, why am I gonna do this stupid shit? It's very charming, a very good introduction to everybody, if a bit direct, but it worked. I really liked that little introductory scene. It was fun. Though I will say, in terms of its setting, Ionios is not quite as interesting on a physical level as the last 2 games. This game doesn't take place on 2 giant titans that are locked in, that are frozen in eternal battle. It doesn't take place on a bunch of fucking sky whales in a sea of clouds. Ionios, by all accounts, is a standard continent on land. Which, that was a little disappointing, but I mean, there's still a lot. It's still a fantastical land. There's a gigantic sword in the distance. There's like what looks like some titans or a titan from the second game just kind of in the land. Which I guess leads me to the visual similarities that this game has to the last 2 games. Even though everybody in the game is referred to as a human, the main characters and plenty of the NPCs and such that you meet throughout the game are very obviously visually similar to races from the last few games. Of course, there's Noah, who is just a human, or I guess a hom in this case. Lanz is a machina. Uni is a Hyentia, or a half Hyentia. They're the Kavessian side, which I suppose is supposed to have the races from Xenoblade 1. Tyon and Senna are, I guess they're both supposed to be blades. Senna particularly has flaming blue hair, kind of like Brigid. And then Mio is obviously supposed to be a Gormati. Then you have the Mechonis, Mechonis sword that pierces the land. You can see the Urian Titan off in the distance as well as on the title screen. There's a lot of like names of areas that are similar. Like the Urian Titan is like, there's a place just straight up called the Urian Caverns. The first place you go to is called Colony 4, which is the same name as the first colony in Xenoblade Chronicles 1. Or was it Colony 9? They're both in the game. Whatever. Colony 4 or Colony 9, you go to them both pretty early. And I will say most of these similarities are cosmetic. There's very few, if any, direct references to the first 2 games. This is very much still its own standalone story, just like the last 2 games. It's just, if you have played the first 2, you can appreciate all of these little references more and more. But even when you know it, they're not distracting at all, because this world is still very much its own. It's very much unique in its own way, despite all of the visual and naming similarities. So, since we're talking about the characters and character designs, the character design philosophy in this game is it takes what really worked about Xenoblade Chronicles 2, that game's design. It takes away the parts that are super cringe, and then it just enhances the stuff that makes that game look so good. It really just focuses on what worked and refines it. These characters look amazing. First of all, they are incredibly photogenic. Not just in the fact that they look great and they're visually appealing. There's just so much great camera work in the cutscenes. The cinematography makes these character designs pop in such a fucking crazy way. There are so many points. I have so many screenshots of this game where I just like I'm either playing the game and then I get a right camera angle, I'm like, oh, this character looks fucking awesome here, I'm gonna take a screenshot of that. Or just moments during the cutscenes where the camera just hits a character in the right way, or their facial expression is expressive and interesting enough that I'm like, that looks so good! I gotta take a picture of that shit! Look, just fucking pose for the camera. This game is gorgeous. These games' character designs are phenomenal, and one of the things that makes them so good is that they are so simple. There's some characters later on that are a little bit more over-designed, but your main cast have such succinct and focused designs. Their outfits are very simple, their hair and, their features and all of that are very simple, but they do so much with what they have. I very much compare this game's character design philosophy to that of Final Fantasy VII, where characters like fucking Cloud, Barret, Tifa, Aerith, their designs, especially Tifa's, they are not in any way complicated. I mean, Cloud's hair is a little fucking weird, but other than that, their outfits, very simple. Tifa, like, her outfit is literally just like a tank top and a skirt, And you have these characters where, their outfits are a tank top and pants or just a shirt with a jacket over it. There's a gameplay reason, actually, why they look so simple, and I will get into that later. But God, what a visually appealing cast. And they're not just visually appealing, of course. These characters are spectacular. And like with any RPG I do a discussion video about, it's time to go to the main cast and just be like, hey, what's Jacob think of them? What does he think of these characters? Because, characters are the most important thing for me in an RPG. And this game fucking knocks it out of the park. Noah, your main protagonist, essentially. I think that this game splits up the main character role pretty evenly between the 6 characters. Noah and Mio, the human and the Gormati, they kind of take center stage, but even then, there's a lot of focus on all 6 of them, all 6 of the humans. Less so on the Nopon, which I was disappointed in. Anyway, I'm rambling. Noah, I hate to start this sounding negative. I really don't want to sound negative when I say this, but people gave Shulk and Rex shit for being boring. I've seen a lot of people describe them as such. I did not agree. However, I will say Noah is the first Xenoblade Chronicles protagonist where I do find his personality to be a little boring. He's a lot like the last 2 protagonists, where he's just a very nice guy with a strong sense of justice and a desire to improve the world. But he doesn't have the dorkish charm of Shulk or the dumbass charm of Rex. He's just kinda nice, and a lot of his dialogue is very monotone, which there's nothing wrong with. It's just weird because eventually, like, if you ever hear him say anything a little bit more enthusiastic, it almost feels strange. Like, when you climb vines in this game, sometimes he'll be like, time to take the high road, and like, with a lot of enthusiasm that I'm not used to hearing from him. He has like these moments of being kind of chipper, but they're few and far between. Most of the time he's just a really nice, very normal feeling guy. Not to say I didn't like him. I fucking love Noah. Noah's backstory and the experiences he has through the game really save him. They make me very interested in him. He's got an incredible design. He's a very handsome young man. He goes through a lot. Everybody in this fucking game goes through a lot, man. But Noah's a great main character, but he's just a little bit less engaging to me than Shulk or Rex, even though he's probably a better character overall, at least better than Rex. Shulk is great, but I don't know. And then, of course, like, each party member has a paired character, I guess, that they're more closely associated with than the others from the opposing country. And for Noah, of course, it's Mio, the Gormati cat girl. She's also pretty normal, but I think she has a little bit more going on. She feels like a big sisterly type character. She has a few more moments than Noah where she's just kind of being a little silly, where she kind of takes a stand in places where she feels she needs to, in the moments that are a little bit less, like, dire. Like, of course, in the trailer, in one of the trailers for the game, you see the scene where they're walking through the desert and then they find an oasis and Mio is just super, like, hot and stuff and like, oh, I don't know if I can make it. And then she sees the oasis and her ears perk up and it's adorable. She just has more little moments like that. Like little lighthearted humanic moments. I don't think that's a word, but it works, you know what I mean. Next up is Lance, who is the Machina. He's our himbo boy, and he is very fun. Nice, strong, loving, dumbass guy, but he's a little bit less of like such a squeaky nice guy than Ryan was in Xenoblade 1. He's got a little bit more of an edge and a temper to him, but he's still super sweet, super nice, super dumb. I don't think his dumbassery really gets in the way much. And I mean, it's mostly just amusing or charming when he's like acting kind of a fool. You know, arguing with people when they call him out for some nonsense he says, or just falling on his ass every now and again. Lance is a good guy. I recently saw a poll on the Xenoblade subreddit, which kind of talked about where it's like, oh, who's your favorite member of the cast? And Lance did get last place. I mean, he's got his own stuff going on as well. I feel like he doesn't go through quite as much as some of the other characters in terms of like strife and all of that. But still, it is very nice to have Lance around. Fucking wonderful, man. Then Lance's pair is with Senna. Absolute cutie patootie Senna is. She's short, tiny, fucking buff as shit, though. Well, she's supposed to be buff. She's actually very skinny. She's not very toned, even though she's supposed to be super strong, but her arms are like twiggly. She's got some ab, I guess, but you know. She's strong, she's a bit of a jock, but she's also just so bubbly and cute. And her voice actress is fucking awesome. She may stand out a bit more because she's the only member of the main cast to have an American accent. Everybody else is some kind of UK accent. But she, like, her VA does a fantastic job at portraying this really optimistic girl who is obviously hiding some anxieties about herself. There are some moments in this game, however, where they kind of drop the ball with Senna, and she doesn't feel like she has quite as much development or screen time that she really deserves. And it feels like she's a little bit pushed to the side in favor of everybody else. Especially in one particular side quest where it's supposed to focus around her, but it really does not at all. It's disappointing. But Senna leaves such an incredible mark by just being so sweet. Just such an endearing and nice character with so much enthusiasm. She is a beacon of light in this fucking game. And next up there's Tyon. Fucking awesome, cool nerd character. Like, he is the know-it-all, he's the smart guy of the group, and he does feel a bit tropey about that at times. But man, he is fucking awesome. First of all, his weapon is super unique. He uses these things called Mondo, which are basically these like little paper bird things that surround him and he can send like off to fight for him, and it's so interesting. I've never seen anything like that. And there's like, his animations are very strong. Like, he does a lot of like, oh, I push up my glasses so I can see because I'm a nerd with glasses. But there's this one animation that he does where he just sends his Mondo off with his hand. He looks away and pushes up his glasses as they surround the enemy. It's fucking badass. He's a badass in his own way, but he's also a total fucking goon. he's such a dork as well at times, and such a little smartass know-it-all, but not in a way that ever gets tiring at all. I fucking love Tyon. He's really cool. And I have saved someone for last specifically, and that is Uni, who is the Hyantia looking girl. Uni is one of my favorite characters from any piece of media I've ever seen. I absolutely could not get enough of seeing Uni on my television screen. She is phenomenal. She is so well-rounded. Like, a lot of these characters, they do feel a little tropey. Like Tyon being the know-it-all guy, Lance being the himbo, you know, Senna being like the bubbly girl. But Uni feels like she very much defies that. The closest thing you've got is that she is kind of a tomboy. She's a bit foul-mouthed, sarcastic at times, but she doesn't feel like that's her character trait. She is so well-rounded in terms of her behavior. She can be sarcastic, she can be angry, she can be very nice and, you know, supportive. She can have a fucking sense of humor. She is so funny. Uni is hilarious. She is one of the goddamn funniest fucking characters I've ever seen in a JRPG, and she is by no means what I would call comic relief. She just has a really sharp wit, and when she is trying to be funny, she nails it. She is hilarious. The writing on her side is so fucking good. How she fucking teases her friends a little bit, especially Tyon. She just loves to give that guy a hard time. Him and Lanz as well. Like, everybody kind of pokes fun at Lanz, but Uni likes to do it a lot. But it's always really, like, friendly. Uni never feels cruel or mean. She's just got a very interesting sense of humor that feels so real. Like, it feels like Uni is somebody who you would want to hang out with. She's got such just a chill demeanor to her, even when she gets kind of, like, hot-headed and angry. It's nothing that feels annoying or cruel or, like, or makes her seem unlikable in the slightest. Plus, her backstory and the way she grows throughout the story as well. She goes through some very interesting shit throughout this game, very unique, and she is very central to a lot of the things that go on. Her interactions with some of the other characters later on are so cool, and I mean, if I may, she's also beautiful. Like, she takes so much of what I was saying earlier about the simple yet effective character designs of this game, and she just kind of encapsulates it all. She takes this, like, jumpsuit, which is basically a tank top and leggings, and rocks it. Her jacket is just this green and black hoodie. I love her, like, cute bob haircut, her brunette hair, her wings, the way that she kind of messes with her wings and her idle animations and in a few parts of the game, like the cutscenes in the game. Her face is so expressive. She can portray such a wide range of emotions that, frankly, more games should focus on. I love when characters' faces are super expressive. And Uni's just, you can really tell the emotions that Uni is feeling, whether she's being, happy, angry, smug, whatever. And, she got it going on top and bottom, if you know what I'm saying. She's fucking gorgeous, fucking funny, fucking cool. Uni is amazing. She is an unbelievably strong character. Fucking incredible. And in that poll, I'm pretty sure Uni was stated to be the most popular character. Like, yeah. She is just, I want to be friends with Uni, dude. I want Uni in my life. I want to fucking hang out and eat some fucking chips with Uni, dude. I don't know why chips. It's just, hanging out on the couch, eating chips, hanging out. It's fucking great. I love her. I love her to death. And then, of course, there's the Nopon, too. I guess I didn't save Uni for last because I've got the Nopon. They're not quite as prevalent throughout the story as, like, a Tora or a Riki from the last two games. But Riku and Manana are still pretty strong. Riku, actually, in terms of story, is very important. Probably more so than Tora or Riki. Like, in terms of, like, the overall arching story, Riku is very important. Manana is the chef. She is adorable. She is also very peppy, kind of in a similar way to Senna, while Riku is just super stern. He has this really deep voice that I've never seen come out of a Nopon before. It's great. I really like these two. It's just they are not always in your party, and it actually takes a long time for them to actually be available for combat, which I will get later. I will get to later. But they're always there, and every now and again they'll chime in with something important. As I've kind of hinted at throughout a lot of this character discussion, the voice acting and the localization for this game is absolutely top-notch. It absolutely crushes Xenoblade Chronicles 2's terrible voice direction. Like, every issue that game had with its voices are just, they're gone. They're not here. They're not present. They've been fucking annihilated. The voice acting overall in this game is unbelievable. I mean, if I think and nitpick, I could probably find some performances that are not great, but are good instead. But I really don't want to, because the overwhelming majority of the time, the voice performances are just so flawless every bit of the way. And if I may go back to simping for Uni. Kitty Archer's performance as Uni, just unreal. She brings that character to life in ways that every aspiring voice actor, or current voice actor, frankly, should strive to be like. An amazing performance. I remember seeing a clip of Noah's voice actor playing Xenoblade 3, and he was talking about how Xenoblade 3 was nominated for Game of the Year at Game Awards, and he even took that moment to kind of praise Kitty Archer specifically for her performance as Uni, because it is really top-notch, unbelievable voice work all around. But, you know, big props to Kitty Archer, voice of Uni, and who voiced Senna, as well as Rebecca LaChance, who is the voice of Senna, who also does incredible. Everyone does incredible, but I feel like those two performances really stand out. This also might be the most British Xenoblade game, and that's saying something, because the last two games were super British. There's a lot of fucking swearing in this game too, not only like real swears, but there's also in-universe swears, which make more sense to, like, they're usually they're usually a major pet peeve of mine. I think they're really annoying at times, and I will say, like, they do get on my nerves occasionally, especially there's this one, like, instead of saying fuck, they'll say like spark, which bugs me because spark does not roll off the tongue well at all. Because the thing about swear words is that they just kind of, like, take the word fuck. Like, it's just such a visceral word that, you know, it takes a lot of, like, to say, like the strong, like, fuck. You know, but spark, it's so awkward. I did not like that choice. But, like, snuff is better. Mutter is mutter. Some of these I can't tell if they're like made up in-universe swears or if they're actual British phrases that I'm not aware of. Like, you would call people a mutter. Uni likes to call people muppets. I'm pretty sure that's a real one. That sounds, I mean, obviously muppets are a thing, but muppet, that sounds like a real one. Or like a spoon. I can't, like, if there are any English speakers, if mutter, muppet, and spoon in particular are British expletives that you're familiar with, I'd be curious to know if there's any reality behind some of those. But again, even through, like, real swears, this game is pretty fucking raunchy. Like, there's a lot of instances of, like, shit, and a lot of instances of bitch. Particularly, like, there's one character later, she doesn't have a very good relationship with her mother, so she almost exclusively refers to her mother as bitch queen, like, constantly. Like, this is a very bitch-heavy game. And for it to be a Nintendo-published game, I mean, fucking Bayonetta, of course, is a Nintendo-published game too, but it didn't start as a Nintendo-published game. Xenoblade Chronicles technically did, even though it's an extension of the Xeno series, which has been going on since the 90s. But, you know, it's just funny to see so much bad language in this game. And I like it. I like it. It adds some edge to it that I appreciate. One thing about the characters, however, that I'm not huge on, some of the villains are kind of underwhelming. There are some incredible villains, but there's also, you know, Mobius, who I mentioned earlier. There's a lot of them, and they can seem pretty interchangeable. First of all of their designs kind of blend into me. They all wear this, like, red and white armor with a different style of helmet, and I can never remember who's who, especially because they're all named after letters. Like, you've got just everybody's name is just a letter. And, you know, that makes it really difficult for me to remember who's who. And when, like, a Mobius that you've already seen before comes back again in a later quest, I'm like, have we met? Do I know you? And it was like, whatever. But, I mean, there's some fantastic villains as well. So I feel like it kind of balances out, but overall I was focusing far more on how much I liked the protagonists than the antagonists. All right, how the hell does this game play? The gameplay is a refined version of Xenoblade Chronicles 2's combat. You know, that game felt a little slow and sluggish and difficult to deal with sometimes. And then Xenoblade 2 Torna, the Golden Country, improved on it a little bit, but I really think Xenoblade Chronicles 3 takes it to that next level. It flows a lot better, you move a lot faster in combat, and you have a little dash move that you can use to kind of get to places a little bit faster, get around to behind an enemy if you want. And similar to 2 again, your face buttons all do certain abilities that are on a cooldown. You have 3 that you can equip, as well as a super move. And then on your other side, on your D-pad, you have more abilities that you are able to equip. And these come into play with the class system. So this game has classes, different from the earlier games. Everybody starts off with their starting class, and then after you progress the story enough, it's revealed that these characters can swap classes with each other. The classes that a character is using, they're associated with the jacket they're wearing, which is what I was talking about earlier in a gameplay reason why these designs are so simple. It's so that they can swap outerwear easily and have it match with their normal outfit so that you can see what class everybody's using based on their jacket. I will say, when I started this game, and this is probably just me overthinking things, but I was incredibly confused at this design decision of being able to swap classes between characters and wondering what its purpose was. Because at first, only 2 people are able to, like, each pair that I mentioned earlier is able to swap classes with each other. And eventually they're all able to swap classes among each other as well. Like, it doesn't have to be the pair, everybody can swap classes with everybody. But it made me confused on why I would do that, because as you progress through a class with a character, then they gain certain abilities that character's class can use. There's 3 categories of classes. There is attacker, defender, and healer. Let's take Lanz and Senna, for example. They swap their classes. Lanz is a defender, and Senna is an attacker. Lanz has this giant great sword that he uses to gain aggro and, block attacks. Senna uses this giant hammer to deal damage. So with Senna, early on, I'm like, okay, Senna excels most at being an attacker as her ogre class. And then, as you use classes more, you gain more abilities that you can then place onto other classes. Like, you can go back to being whatever class they were doing before, and then use some abilities or some moves that you inherited from using a different class. So I look at Senna, and I'm like, okay, all of the moves she's learning from being Lanz's class increase aggro, because they're defenders. They're supposed to increase aggro, but as an attacker, you're supposed to not draw too much attention to yourself because you're supposed to do damage without being noticed. Why would I do this? I just spent literally 3 hours of the game looking back into the class system, wondering, why would I do this? Why would I make an attacker learn things that increases their aggro? That's not what I want, because Senna's best as an attacker, right? So why would I increase her aggro? But then later, it immediately snapped with me, because this should have been fucking obvious. This is obviously me messing up and overthinking things. There are more classes that you find throughout the game. And then it clicked. I'm like, oh, okay, all right, okay, I get it now. You have everybody use everything, and then have just kind of mix things up the best you can with everything that you learn, and it mixes all into a big pot of super customizable combat that has a lot of uses and a lot of utility. Okay, yeah, okay. That makes sense to me now. I don't know why I focused so much on it. That's completely on me. I focused so much on how confused I was, and I didn't think about the future. Even though the menu that shows the classes has so much empty space, I'm like, obviously there's going to be more. Obviously there's going to be more classes, you moron. So that all made sense in the end. And you get these classes by finding heroes and completing their hero quest. So while you have your 6 main characters that are always in your party, and you can swap between them during battle, by the way, I forgot to mention that. You can actually swap characters mid-fight, which you couldn't do in the other games. It's very convenient, especially if you need something done and you don't want to have to rely on the AI to do it for you. On top of that, there is a 7th slot, which is reserved for what is called a hero. They are always computer controlled. You can swap between them whenever you want, except during fights, of course. And when you find a hero and complete their quest, one person inherits their class, which they can then learn themselves, and using them enough will allow other characters, to use the class too. And that's where all the mixing and matching comes in, because you learn a bunch of abilities, and then you get more classes, which increase more depending on which ones you haven't done yet, so that other people can learn other classes and learn other abilities that you can then mix and match and make things where characters are either super fucking well-rounded or super focused on one thing, whatever you want. And it's very nice. It's fun to use all these different classes, and it kept the gameplay fresh because there's so many of them if you decide to go all the hero quests. Plus, on top of this, there's the monsters that I stated that the characters can fuse and become. These are known as Ouroboros forms. I don't think I was ever able to properly utilize the Ouroboros forms, honestly. Because the good thing about them is you can, once you get a meter high enough, you can fuse with your other character. They fuse into one being, which has a lot of strength and a lot of like very quick, if not instantaneous cooldowns on their new moves. And they're essentially invincible. You cannot take damage. It's just that the more moves you do, the greater your heat gauge increases, which once it gets full, you split up again. So I was never able to fully use this. Like, what I noticed a lot is that the AI would do it when they're almost dead. But the frustrating part about that is you also cannot be healed when you're in an Ouroboros form. So I'm like, God damn it, you motherfuckers. Why did you fuse when I was just about to heal you? And now I have to wait and hold on to this healing move that I don't want to be on cooldown when you unfuse, and then hope you don't die right after unfusing. You motherfucker. So I feel like I never fully took advantage of what they did, sadly. Now, back on the heroes, I just wanted to take that side note to talk about the Ouroboros form. The heroes are all, of course, their own characters, and most, if not all of them, are fantastic in their own right. There are some really cool and unique characters that you're very happy to learn more about and very happy to have around. And you're going to have your favorites that you want to use, either based on their personality or their gameplay, because there is very much a combination of the two that you want to use. And that kind of leads me into how long it took me to beat this game. I did more side content in this game than any other RPG I've ever played. It took me about 120 hours to beat the game because I was just so enamored with the world and I was so just happy. I was fucking thrilled to just be doing side quests all the time. Because even though a lot of the actual side quests themselves can be a little tedious sometimes and not super interesting, the story and the world really gets fleshed out by these. And everyone has good enough writing where I really give a shit about the side quests, which I feel like was a weakness of Xenoblade Chronicles 2, where a lot of the side quests, they went on forever, and I never found the dialogue to be supremely interesting in a lot of them. Xenoblade Chronicles 3 fixes that. The dialogue is much more interesting, and the side quests, I feel, are a little bit more reasonably lengthed. They don't stretch on forever and ever and ever like the ones in 2 did. Some of them do, but most of them I don't think do. But my point is, it took me 120 hours to beat the game. You can probably beat it in like half of that time if you don't do as much side content, because I really did just spend hours doing side quests. But if you kind of want to just focus on doing the best of the best content for this game and experiencing like just the best of what the game has without doing everything, because I didn't do everything. I did a lot, but I didn't do everything. If you want to just focus on the best stuff, I at the very least recommend doing all of the hero quests. Not all of them are perfectly accessible throughout the story. Like, you will not run into all of them automatically. You may need to hunt out for some of them, but a lot of them are marked with very blatant question marks on your map, and then once you wander around there, it'll trigger. And there are quite a few of them. I don't remember exactly how many heroes there are, but all of the hero quests are great. Seeing all of the characters is really fun, and you really get the maximum gameplay and story experience by doing them all. I don't think it'll take that much extra time to do all of them, at least not time you're not willing to spend, because I really think it's worth it to do them all. And like I said, you level up classes that you inherit from, meeting the heroes, and once you max out their level to 10, and reach certain story points, then all the heroes also have a second quest that you can do known as an Ascension quest. These are a lot more hit or miss, in my opinion. Some of them are fantastic, where I'm like, don't fucking beat this game without doing these quests. They are incredible. But others are super lame and annoying and boring and don't add like anything to the main story at all. Like, they are super hit or miss. Some are fantastic, some suck. If you want my opinion, just a moment. If you want my opinion on which ones I think you should do, like, definitely, most of the main characters, you're going to see their Ascension quest automatically throughout the story. But the ones where I recommend you do them, just seek them out, Ashira's is phenomenal. Teach's is incredible. Izzard's is pretty fun. Senna's, I'm pretty sure is missable, but it's incredible as well. I definitely don't think you should miss that. Xeon's, the quest itself is annoying, but I think that it really... I think that the story and the writing around it is good enough that it kind of carries it despite annoying objectives. And it also makes up for another hero. Another hero joins that story who I think has perhaps one of the worst Ascension quests that I think is just totally not worth it at all. So that kind of makes up for their awful Ascension quest, in my opinion. So if anything, if you like that character, then you should go ahead and do that Xeon's Ascension quest too. There's a bunch of them. But I will say they feel less mandatory than the hero quests, which I, again, completely recommend doing all of them if you're going to play this game. So I've pretty much said most of what I want to say. Now I want to introduce a new bit called Discord Comments. So I asked the TheStrawhatNO /Thornbrain Discord, which you can join by joining Thornbrain's Patreon down there in the description. I asked them what they thought of the game. And I'm going to read a few comments of people who have also enjoyed Xenoblade Chronicles 3. First is from GamerPuff. I love Xenoblade 3. It has an interesting combat that is rewarding to pull off, characters that I fell in love with, and a story that hit me multiple times. I would recommend this game to anyone, even if they don't know Xenoblade. I agree. Like I said, this game has its own singulated story that does not require knowledge of Xenoblade 1 or 2 to play. But I mean, I recommend playing the first 2 games anyway, because they're incredible, and if this game looks good to you, you're probably going to like those as well. But yeah, I definitely agree. I fell in love with the characters as well. The story, especially the ending, dude. I won't spoil it quite yet, but the ending, man, I was tearing up. It's Xenoblade games know how to end. And finally, the second and last one from Ms. Chris. I put 216 hours in the game, and I'm nowhere near finishing it. There's so much to do. There is a lot to do. I feel like I could 100% this game if I really wanted to. The side quests are easy enough to find, and they're fun enough to do, and I enjoy just experiencing this world enough on its own that I could probably play the game for 216 hours if I didn't have other games I wanted to play and things I just wanted to move on with. All right, thank you so much for those. I want to try incorporating these into future discussion videos. So if you want to include a comment telling me what you think of a game for me to read it in my future discussion videos, then go ahead and drop $1 into Thornbrain's Discord. She'd really appreciate it. In conclusion, I don't know if I made this clear or not, because again, I rambled a lot, and I feel like I complained a little bit more than I would like to. But Xenoblade Chronicles 3 is one of my favorite games of all time. I adored this game. I don't just put 120 hours into every game, especially story-based games with tons of side content. Usually I'm like, oh, I'll just do the main story and then do maybe a few side quests just to get some items or some XP, or to like do a couple of fun things that the game may have me do. No, I almost had to force myself to put this game down after 120 hours. This is an experience that I will hold dear to me for as long as I like video games. It is an immaculate experience. So much fun throughout the whole thing. Amazing, amazing characters. Uni is fucking fantastic. And it was so worth every moment that I spent with it. It is a very special game. It is going to be my game of the year, no doubt about it. And it's a game that I can't wait for the DLC to come out, because it implies that it's going to be a big crossover between the 3 games, because the menu screen, it shows like the Monado, Pyrrhus sword, and Noah's sword all in the ground together. So I assume it's going to be a big crossover event, and it'll be great. Oh, I can't wait. All right, now, we're not done yet. It's spoiler time. If you ain't played this game, you get the hell out of here. I don't want you here. I don't want you hearing these spoilers. I'm going to talk about some major shit right now. You can't be here. If you've already beaten the game, come on in. Have a seat. Have some cocoa. I have a bucket of cocoa for each of you. You have to drink from the bucket too. No, you don't get a straw. Time to talk about spoilers. Major story spoilers. This is your final warning. Don't fucking Don't stay here if you ain't beat the game. All right, let's go. The city. Getting to the city. Seeing the city for the first time. Seeing what is essentially a normal, realistic human society in this world of bizarre, backward shit is so cool. The fact that these characters don't know what a baby is so interesting because they go into the hospital. They see a newborn baby. This mother introduces the Ouroboros gang to a baby for the first time, and they're all like, oh my god, it's so small. This was made by a person. This grew inside of a person and was born? Or let me reach my finger out. Oh my god, it grabbed my finger. Oh, it's so cute. Oh my god, I want one. Well, thankfully, you know, there's three couples amongst you, male and female, you know. You could do that yourselves. And I love how there's just this doctor who literally walks up and literally says, who wants to know how babies are made? The gang learns what sex is. You know, they really didn't. I respect that they didn't linger on that moment very long. They just had the doctor come in and say it, and then they just moved on. Like, you very well could have had some low-hanging fruit jokes there, but I bet the writers were like, no, the players will make the jokes. And I assure you, me and CJ made the jokes, because the concept of these young adults learning the concept of not only sex, but the concept of reproduction, like, just for the first time. That in itself is funny, so they don't need to do much more than that. Tyon especially, when he gets his finger grabbed by the baby, and he just, like, giggles like a moron at how touching this moment is. I'm like, oh my god. Dude, I ship Tyon and Uni so much. Their interactions in the ending, which I'm going to get to in a bit, are so cute. Oh my god. They should have had babies. They should have had babies. This one is a bit of a complaint. But there's this moment around the climax of the game, like at its apex, where Lanz and Senna essentially attempt to kamikaze one of the Mobiuses. I think it was N, to hopefully save the world. They were overloading themselves with Ouroboros power on purpose. They grabbed N and they flew away. And they started talking like, oh yeah, we're going to die now. Thank you so much for everything that you've done for us. But we're going to be useful by sacrificing ourselves for the greater good. They're stopped by another Mobius. But they never bring that up again. You would think that after that, I mean, a lot of really major story stuff happens basically immediately afterwards, so I guess everyone just kind of forgot. But I thought there would be a point where someone pulls Senna and Lanz aside and be like, hey, Senna, Lanz, you good? You good? Like, is everything okay? Because not only like that, shortly before this, which I think was supposed to be foreshadowing for this moment, Lanz and Senna kind of have a heart-to-heart about how they both lack self-confidence and they don't like themselves and they don't feel like they are useful people and useful members of the team. So they're obviously really down about that, which kind of foreshadowed their essential attempted suicide. And I really feel like you could have, like, somebody should have brought that up. And they've, like, be like, dude, please talk to us. We're here for you. And I'm sad that it didn't happen. A lot of these are complaints. Holy shit. Next up is Triton's Ascension Quest, which is one of my least favorite because it is such a massive missed opportunity. Triton, of course, is the reformed Mobius. I don't know if he's reformed or if he's just such a strange dipshit of an old man that he just kind of goes with the flow of things. I don't know if he directly rebelled against Mobius or not. But first of all, his concept is incredible. A Mobius that has just kind of turned over a new leaf and is at least a neutral guy and is incredibly nice and funny on his own and a little bit senile as well. His Ascension Quest is just all about finding this treasure that his friend left him. And it doesn't mention at all. It doesn't play into the fact that he's a Mobius at all. I thought that there would be some kind of interaction between him and the existing Mobius that are still, doing Mobius things, but there's not. I thought that was a huge missed opportunity. I was really disappointed when I finished Triton's Ascension Quest for that reason. Another Ascension Quest that I had big issue with was Senna's. Even though it's an incredible quest with some really strong story moments, and I definitely recommend that everybody do this quest, it really has nothing to do with Senna. This is what I was mentioning earlier, where Senna feels like she's kind of pushed to the back. Senna's Ascension Quest is more like Gondor's Ascension Quest. Gondor also has a good Ascension Quest, but frankly, I would replace that one with this one in a heartbeat, because it's such a good Ascension Quest for Gondor, and it really does nothing for Senna herself. It just focuses on Shania, who is a character that Senna had a few interactions with, but all of the heart goes to the relationship between Shania and Gondor, and not Shania and Senna. Which makes sense, but then at that point, just make something new for Senna that focuses more on her. Really, she is one of those characters where another Ascension Quest does a lot more for her character than her own, and that's Sagiri's Ascension Quest, which is, or Sagiri's, like, original hero quest does a lot more for Senna than Senna's Ascension Quest. Very strange and disappointing. That said, Shania is one of my favorite Xenoblade villains. I kind of appreciate the tragedy behind her entire mindset. How she's been, verbally and emotionally abused by her mother. She's an aspiring artist that never really got the recognition that she wanted. She ended up leaving the city to join the endless wars on the outside. And then when she sees things going to shit, when, all this stuff happens with Mio's homecoming and M dying, and then Shania's just like on the edge with a fucking gun to her head, her eyes wide with rage, just angry. She's snapped. And that moment where she snaps is just so powerful. Seeing a fucking Nintendo game with a character shooting themselves in the head is insane to me. God, she is just such a strong villain in a game where like a lot of the main villains are not great. Shania stands out to me. And then like one last thing, that ending, man. Zed is not a great villain because he's just not around a lot, but once the ending, man, Xenoblade games know how to end. Just seeing everybody, their tattoos gone, meaning that they're essentially just normal humans once again, but their worlds are going to separate, and then they say their goodbyes. Taion and Uni, God, I wish they would kiss. Noah and Mio kissed, but Taion and Uni, oh my god, they were so fucking cute. Lance and Senna were cute. Their little fist bump at the end, and then Senna looking like she's about to break down crying as the camera pans behind them. And then as the world separates, they just futilely and pointlessly run after each other as their worlds drift apart. That moment broke me. That was it. It was over, man. It was over after that. Oh my god. I didn't fully cry, but I was right there, man. I was welling up like crazy. That was such a sad thing to witness, man. Even though everybody's going to be living their best lives in a world where they can make their own choices, in a world where they actually live longer than 10 years and don't have to base their entire world around fighting. Just seeing everybody separate was just so sad. God damn it. Oh, also, the little picture that you see with the Xenoblade 2 cast in Queen Nia's fucking room. They really just gave Rex the full harem, huh? Rex just put a baby in Pyra, Mithra, and Nia. With how cringe Xenoblade 2 is, that's really the only way that game's story could move forward, huh? And that's all I really have to say. And that's the end of this ramble. Thank you so much for listening, if you truly listened to the very end. I hope you enjoyed Xenoblade Chronicles 3. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did, but man, this is one of my favorite games I've ever played. I love it to bits. And I love you for watching this video. Keep an eye out for more discussion videos in the future. Me and Thorn are actually going to team up with one for Sonic Frontiers when I finish Sonic Frontiers. So keep an eye out for that. Also playing Pokemon Scarlet. Got some stuff to say about that game when I finish it, so keep an eye out for that as well. And thank you again for watching. I'm going to shut up now. Have a nice day.